Hey there, CPA holders, and welcome to Barenaked Reviews. This is my spoiler-free review of The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck and Anna Kendrick, which opened this past weekend. The movie's gotten some buzz for being Ben Affleck's non-Batman action equivalent of Matt Damon's Bourne Identity series, but is it really worth the watch? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, here's a synopsis.
But you're signing on forever. When you ink it in blood, A-I-O-U-E-I-O-U-A-E-I-O.
The Accountant. Ben Affleck plays Christian Wolf, a buff accountant who suffers from symptoms resembling autism or Asperger's. So while he's a math genius, he was not programmed to love. Wolf runs a small-town CPA office, which is a cover for his work as a freelance accountant for some of the world's most dangerous criminals. But with the government close on his tail, led by Ray Kling, played by everyone's favorite crank J.K. Simmons, Wolf decides to take on a legitimate client, only to find that there may be more to this client's books than what meets the accountant's eye.
The tubes are all tied.
Your son is a remarkable young man. He has highly advanced cognitive skills. He has more in common with Einstein or Mozart than he does with us. I'd like to work with your son. Help him develop the skills he'll need to lead a full life.
It's not going to happen. The world is not a friendly place, and that's where he needs to learn to live.
How did you get into financial consulting? How did you get into financial consulting? My dad was an accountant. You know, he had the whole shtick. The dorky pocket protector.
I have a pocket protector.
That's a nice one.
Do you like puzzles? Tell me what you see. It was taken 3 years ago by an undercover agent.
It's the same person.
He was spotted in Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Naples. This guy risks his life uncooking the books for some of the scariest people on the planet. Drug cartels, arms brokers, money launderers, assassins. Who survives this kind of clientele? Imagine the secrets this guy has.
So The Accountant is an action flick with some of your classic whodunit mystery twists. So the movie makes you want to cheer as Affleck kicks bad guy butt, but it also makes you want to tune in so you can hear all the players go through their monologues and tell Ben Affleck like, oh, you know, I would have gotten away with it. And my whole plan was to put the thing into place, and then you were going to go to the thing and do the thing and with the other thing. And that's why I would have gotten you. It's essentially, it's this classic, kind of mystery murder. And so J.K. Simmons is in this movie. J.K. Simmons, like I said earlier, he's everyone's favorite crank. You may remember him as the dad in Juno. Recently, he won an Oscar because of his work in Whiplash, where he plays kind of this band teacher guy. So J.K. Simmons, he plays the head of the Treasury Department's crime enforcement team, and this is the last case he wants to figure out before he retires. I'm just doing my time. Got 7 more months. I just want to retire. And so he ropes in this young analyst that he finds, and he gets her to help him out in chasing after Affleck's character, the accountant. And so there's some good twists that come in as you learn more about everyone's backstory. This is kind of like it's just like a really good popcorn flick. Yeah, there's action and stuff, and there's a lot of build-up, but all of that is going into kind of setting up this large, complex mystery, and as you're watching, you're playing the Sherlock as you're watching the movie, and you want to figure it out before everyone in the movie figures it out, so that you can say, hey, I got this before you did, and I win the competition. There's a lot of build-up in the beginning where they show the accountant as a young kid struggling with, they don't actually say what his ailment is, but he's got symptoms resembling that of autism. So you start feeling sympathy for the kid and also the grown man, because the grown man, he's sort of figured out a way to kind of make all his afflictions work out, but he's a public accountant, and so he's struggling with some social scenarios due to his behavioral afflictions. And so there's some moments where everyone in the theater kind of laughs in embarrassment for Christian Wolf. This is the kind of thing where it's just a great movie to watch in a theater. For example, when I watched it in the theater recently, there was an East Asian sounding woman somewhere in the theater who, at this one scene, she freaked out when Ben Affleck was unexpectedly shot at near the end of a scene. Like, he was kind of like walking around or something like that, and he got shot at from like out of nowhere. And then that was the end of the scene. So there was a little silence in the movie, and so this East Asian sounding woman started like talking like, oh my gosh, like I was so freaked out, and everyone in the theater kind of laughed. And this is the kind of thing that's perfect for that, because there's a lot of these kind of moments where just kind of like a classic movie, like romping good times. You know, if you're looking for romping good times, I think you'll get it from The Accountant. The Accountant has a lot of action, and then it's also got this shade of behavioral afflictions. I kind of think of it as John Wick meets Monk. Monk is USA's quirky crime comedy drama led by Tony Shalhoub, who plays this top-notch detective guy who suffers from a variety of OCD, like behavioral issues, where he's got to like touch pillars as he walks by, and he touches everything, literally everything, with a handkerchief. And John Wick was this Keanu Reeves action movie, and some of you may know it as the movie that spawned Keanu, which was the first movie from the Key and Peele guys after their Key and Peele Comedy Central show ended. John Wick, for those of you who didn't watch it, maybe you can say The Accountant is like James Bond meets Monk, where it's just a lot of excellent action from top to bottom. So that's John Wick. The Accountant, there's a lot of build up where the movie is trying to make you feel sympathetic. So that's why I kind of align it with The Monk. So let's get into the good and the bad. So there's some plot holes in The Accountant, and just based off the buzz that I was seeing online, Rotten Tomatoes gives The Accountant 47%, and Metacritic gave it 41%. IMDb had it somewhere around 75%. So there's some mixed reviews, but generally it doesn't sound like The Accountant is doing too great. And I think it's because it's a little formulaic. So Ben Affleck, I think he does a decent job playing this guy who has Asperger's or autism, but not making it too, like, the jokes in the movie aren't coming from his afflictions necessarily. Like, you're not laughing at autism. And so I think he does a good job balancing that. But all the other actors, like Anna Kendrick and Jonathan Lithgow is in this, and then Jon Bernthal, who's famous for both Shane from The Walking Dead and The Punisher from Netflix's Daredevil show. They're all kind of doing the thing that they do. And it's all in the context of this action movie. So, and that's why I think, like, you're going for this for action. You're not necessarily going for this for some great, performing pieces. And so I think as a action movie, this does okay, but I think you have to watch this in the theater. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be one anyone really is rushing to, I don't know, where do people rush to buy DVDs or Blu-rays anymore? But wherever you go, no one's rushing to Walmart for The Accountant on Blu-ray. So there's some plot holes. For example, Ben Affleck's character, Christian Wolf, was supposed to be the cleanest guy ever because he is so careful about everything that he does, and he's always moving around, and he keeps changing identities and using different names. But at one point, the government analyst who's trying to track Christian Wolf down gets a list of some of the fake names that he's used, and she Googles them and sees that they're all famous mathematicians who suffered from autism. And she found that relatively quickly because anyone with Google can do that. So, I mean, the thing is if you're really one of the best people who's spent years doing accounting and cooking books for some of the world's most dangerous criminals like Christian Wolf did, would you really be using fake names that were that easily Googleable? I don't think you would be. I think you'd be using the least famous mathematicians. So one of the popular things that are known about autism is a person who's dealing with that affliction doesn't let anyone get really close to them. Christian Wolff is facing with this until he meets Anna Kendrick's character, who's an accountant with a love of puzzles. Aw, isn't that sweet? I actually thought she did okay, considering there wasn't a whole lot of acting here for her to do. She just kind of had to fawn over Ben Affleck's accounting plus fighting abilities. A fun fact, her mother is actually an accountant, Anna Kendrick. So Anna Kendrick spent some time with her mother going over the more accountant-y bits of her role. But she is in the movie to be the charming counterpart to Affleck's socially awkward hero. I mean, that's what you'd kind of expect from her, and that's what she delivers. And then I had mentioned that Jon Bernthal's in this, who's the Punisher from Netflix's Daredevil series. And he did an okay job here as one of the lead bad guys, but he always kind of has this one shtick that he does. It's this kind of thing where intermittent between all the action scenes, he's got these monologues where the camera kind of zooms into his face and he's always like kind of sweaty. I think Jon Bernthal is acting the best when he's like sweaty. He's saying something, he's like kind of looking to the side. He's always like looking around, looking everywhere except at the person that he's talking to. And he's like, in the end of it, what the hell are any of us doing here anyways? He does the same thing multiple times here. And it was kind of hard for me to not see that. But I mean, I thought he did okay. But by far one of my most favorite things in this movie is Jon Bernthal. So he plays this kind of this assassin guy, and he surprises one of his victims at their house. And he's eating lemon meringue pie, which he brought into the house that he broke into. So any movie with a bad guy who's eating pie, that gets, you're already bumped up to at least a C+ in my book. And so the accountant, based off some buzz online, is getting a lot of pluses, and I'm also going to throw my hat into this, is getting some pluses for not making autism or Asperger's the butt of a joke, but rather the joke is coming from you sympathizing with people who are trying to respond to the accountant in this case normally. And so I thought that was really nice. One thing that I was reminded of when I was watching this movie is my mother-in-law, Christina. She spends a lot of time with autistic kids as part of her job, and she's always saying like how special they are and that people aren't really looking at them or really considering them in the right way. And I think that's the overall message as far as the displaying of autism goes in The Accountant, that maybe autistic people could communicate if you allowed them to. Overall, I'm going to give The Accountant 3 out of 5. Like I said before, I'm not going to rush out to buy this on Blu-ray, but it's an enjoyable theater flick, and there's going to be a lot of jumping around, suspense, and all this kind of stuff that goes around with it. And so a 3 out of 5 accounting calculators for The Accountant. So that's a wrap. Please check me out at rishibi.com and follow the links within there. Comment, go to the Facebook page, which is of the same name. Tweet at me at BarenakedRevs. Any person who comments has a chance to play a part in a future episode. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Take care of yourselves and watch out for those books that you're cooking. The Accountant, you put your gosh darn clothes back on now.